Hi, I'm Jacob from MetaMask. I lead operations for MetaMask, and yeah.
Hi, my name's Connor. I'm an engineering lead at Uniswap Labs.
Hi everyone, I'm Denise. I lead a bunch of things like product, strategy, and operations at Valora.
My name is Alex. I'm head of mobile at my Ether
Nice. And I already introduced myself. So I'm a really big fan of like conversational panels, but like let's also have some pointed questions towards the actual participants themselves. I think it's really important that we actually understand why we're here, which is that like there is a huge population of people that don't use crypto. Presumably, we like to think that everyone at this conference is using crypto, but there actually is probably people who aren't actually using crypto here. And so we want to discuss like if we know that the next billion users are all going to probably be on mobile phones. What are you doing to address those markets, and what are you doing to actually design your UX and your infrastructure primitive demands for a mobile-facing audience? So I want to start off with Denise Holm here, who is from Valora, and I've known Denise and working on Valora for a long time, and I've been a big fan. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you guys launched Valora as a wallet for the Celo ecosystem, but the unique thing that you did was introduce a DID system that essentially cryptographically salted a phone number to a blockchain address, essentially giving someone identity while also access to a form of wealth accumulation and wealth storage. So now that you've actually had Valora in the wild, I have a question, which is, do you see that DID has been super useful for user onboarding, and or do you see yourself maybe changing and adding more DID solutions such as like email verification or like even Twitter handles?
Yeah, great question. So Valora is a mobile wallet. It's an app built on Celo, and Celo is a layer one. If you don't know, that is mobile first. Oh, like this. Can you hear me? Great. I can also hear me, so that's weird. So Valora is a mobile wallet, and the feature that you were talking about, that users can map their phone numbers to their wallet address, is meant for peer-to-peer use cases where I want to send my friends in, let's say, Uruguay, where I'm from, some Celo dollars or some crypto. And so they may or may not be on Valora or may not be using crypto, as Joras mentioned. The idea of using phone numbers is that it's easy to reach people. Everybody knows someone else's phone number. It's maybe they don't know it by heart, but they can find it in their contact lists. And so like you can reach other people. So like the phone number form of identification is important for like network effects and social network effects. For other things like accessing DeFi, using wallets for Web3, NFTs, phone numbers are not so relevant, obviously. And so yeah, other forms of identification make sense. It could be a user's wallet address. It could be identifier. I don't know about email. I had never thought about that. I don't know, crypto and email don't seem to like go well together, or not intuitively at least.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, I believe Ceramic is who it is. Somebody is working on a DID solution that allows you to tag your Twitter handle, but they had discussed going forward with email, and I thought that was a strange decision as well. But maybe I'm just like, not a boomer. So my next question, thank you so much, Denise, is to Alex over there, right here. Sorry, Alex. And it's kind of around like, so my Ether wallet's been pretty successful. You guys haven't like, not gotten attention. So it's interesting that you have this direction towards mobile first development. And I just wanted to straight up know, is like that always been in the roadmap, or is there a reason that you guys have kind of started to focus on mobile development?
Thank you. So my Ether wallet is one of the earliest wallets. It's been launched 2 weeks after the Ethereum itself was launched, and I think we've done a pretty good job in addressing that early stage of crypto growth. But if we want to keep growing that ecosystem, we can recognize that all of the users, like majority of the users, are actually on mobile. There's been, I think latest numbers is 6.6 billion mobile phones are out there. There's more mobile phones than computers, that's for sure. And this is what I personally joined to my Ether wallet to address. We switched from being web only to being mobile first. Web is still very much a thing. You can think about it as sort of windows into the same building. You have the phone, you have web, you have desktop, and wherever it's more convenient, and it probably will be more convenient in majority of the cases to use your mobile, that's where we want to serve our users.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it's good to see that you're thinking about that next, billion that are probably only going to be on cell phones and the 6.5 that are already there. That actually segues pretty well for me into Connor McEwen over here from Uniswap. Just correct me if I'm wrong. This is your first public appearance as a panel participant for Uniswap, right?
That's very correct.
Yeah. Do you want to say hi to mom or something at home? You can. So I think one of the questions that is going to come to light for I think all of you except for Denise, who's actually mobile first native as a product, is going to be like Connor specifically. Uniswap is already a very successful project on traditional desktop like application for Web3. So what is the benefit to you that you guys like kind of focusing on this new mobile market? Is it about getting there first before like competitors do? Is it about like locking down this super rumored and highly coveted TikTok Gen Z generation? Why do you think that you guys are focused out on the mobile market?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. Ultimately, I think Uniswap Labs is just driven by design and user experience. I think the swap widget, just kind of the swap design of swapping assets, I think is super widely used amongst the industry and very popular. And I think for us, it's just kind of a continued focus on delivering the best swapping experience. We've had months where half of swaps on the Uniswap interface take place on mobile, and so it feels like kind of a natural extension just to kind of cater and tailor that experience more directly to the mobile use case. I think there's things at the operating system like push notifications that you can do that I think we always want to deliver the best experience. And what's cool about the protocol is that anyone can integrate it, but also that we can continue to like build on top of it.
Oh, that's cool. I will have like a direct question for all of you in a second, but I want to give Jacob the chance to like segue us into it. So you guys obviously are another really successful like Ethereum project that is now focusing on a mobile application. And I just like to say that I don't want to hear any hate against MetaMask's mobile UX because I actually really like it, and that's what matters.
That's how I got my lunch. I got lunch today at the food truck with my MetaMask mobile. So.
Ooh, we got a Stan over here from the Uniswap crew. So yeah, Jacob, I think one of the things I really appreciate about the UX is that there's like the browser extension inside of MetaMask, and one of the things I've wondered is like, was that on purpose to maintain all the UX inside of MetaMask for like a new community of users that you're hoping to target, or do you think that that was just what made sense for your already existing MetaMask users so they would never have to leave the app? Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, we say that our core mission is to democratize access to the decentralized web. We want the decentralized web to be available to everyone. And that meant that the most important way that we do that is by being a multi-platform wallet and being accessible to the majority of humanity, which is largely built around mobile devices. We also, in approaching those things and thinking about the decisions we make as a product, we really make those in ways that are probably different than a lot of how the ecosystem thinks about things. So like some examples are like a lot of projects, they make decisions just purely based on total value locked or something like that. And so when you do that, you end up biasing towards wealth rather than users. And so like we'll see patterns where in our swaps feature, the majority of the largest transactions happen on the browser extension, and we get quite a bit of revenue from that. But we actually see a lot more individual users and individual usage on mobile, and the use cases are quite different on mobile. And so we spend a lot of time looking at, in addition to just like the on-chain data, but also looking at unique users and trying to build privacy-respecting ways to understand how unique humans are using these products and building around that.
So if I could summarize, one of the main points I heard was that while large transactions are happening on desktop, you're seeing a lot of microtransactions and unique addresses being used for the mobile browser itself. And obviously that's probably data you have access to that's not on chain, but you can see it because you're MetaMask and people have made accounts maybe. One of the things I think that segues well into is like how do you all like sculpt your products for like this next generation of users or the mobile first community as a whole. I think that you might all have different goals. So I'll let Alex, you want to start off on this?
Well, I think when it comes to mobile, the user experience is key. So the device itself is very small, and especially if you're coming from like a web background or desktop background, the first impulse is to try to shove everything into mobile, you know, just like make it super feature rich, display everything. And we are trying to structure our process around saying no to as many things as possible without defeating the purpose, without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's actually a really hard process because it's actually like everything is super exciting in crypto, right? So there's new projects, new ideas, new concepts, and you always get excited. As we are early adopters of crypto, so we're probably like there's some professional deformation there as well. So we get like easily excited about new stuff, and we think it's here to stay. And so it's actually really, really hard to be disciplined and say no to like 99% of the things, and then still be able to identify that 1% that you would invest your time, invest your team's effort into building and doing it as simply and as elegantly as possible.
Nice. I think that, I mean, so comparing that to, let's say, Denise, you guys are already, you were always crypto mobile native, and that's been your user base from the beginning. And just like a fun little audience fact, Connor, that's sitting next to Denise, actually helped build Valora, but we're not going to ask him any questions about it because that would be weird. But Denise, like, yeah, when you guys designed it from the ground up initially, what was your thoughts around the audiences that you thought your app and your utility would reach?
Yeah, so I agree, like the design challenges of fitting all the complexity of crypto into a mobile first product are high. And like there are a lot of like decisions or maybe even trade-offs, like you do have to say no sometimes. But for us, it was more about going to where the users are. So people are doing everything on their phones today, whether or not they have a laptop. Like if you need a laptop to do something, it's probably because it's quite complex. And so if we want people to kind of overcome the barrier, like the scary, like, oh, I'm getting into crypto, it's like I'm making a life decision, to like, oh, let me just try this out. You need to, like people need to be able to try that out wherever they are with however much money or value they have available to them. And so that's the reason why Valora has always been mobile first. We want to make it really simple and like a really easy step to make like the first transaction with crypto. Whether you're like hodling, hopefully you're doing a little bit more than just that, but it should be super, super simple. And because people are using their phones all day, everywhere, at home, on the bus, on the subway, the tube, whatever, maybe even on planes, like people should be able to do things, crypto things, wherever they are, just like they do everything else, like social media, like even banking, everything else. So there's no reason why crypto should be any different.
That's a really worthwhile goal, and it does bring the question to if you're going after users who are doing relatively small transactions, and as Jacob was talking about, there's large transactions that are happening on desktop. I have a question that challenges like this assumption, because then do we all build mobile app wallets with the expectation that it will be mostly microtransactions? Do we believe that people will kind of come around to this idea that I can send large amounts of money from a mobile UX? And I'll let you all take that. Jacob, I think you probably have people spending, I don't know, Connor, Jacob, people probably spend the most amount of money in your guys' apps, so let's go ahead and like start with you two.
Sure. Yeah. I think if you look at technology in general and adoption, some new use cases get figured out on the desktop and browser, but ultimately I think everything migrates to mobile. I've been doing mobile development for a while, and social apps or consumer apps, or where you see the real usage, where you see the real amount of time that people are spending. Usually, kind of people make their way there, and I do think over time we'll see more and more high value crypto transactions happening on a mobile device. I think part of that is security, part of it's user experience, part of it's education, but I think we all believe that will happen, and we're all working on it. And so I think, yeah, I do expect a future where, and I'm already, personally just doing it a lot. Like, right, when you're like, hear about a new token, or someone says, hey, this NFT, right? Like, for me,
Are you
like,
toilet trading? Are you toilet trading right now? Is this you on your phone on the toilet?
No, it's just hanging out with all the people at the conference and getting alpha. But yeah, so I feel confident that we're well on the path to real many users and a lot of value being transacted from mobile devices.
Yeah, so on the MetaMask side, one of the ways that, or probably the most important way that we grew to the size that we grew and got the adoption that we grew was because we really focused on extensibility and allowing anyone to build whatever they dreamed, and not trying to force just this or that feature into the wallet, and slowing down our pace of innovation to whatever we could do ourselves, but instead we empower the community. And when it comes to mobile, like it is still a challenge that a lot of dApps don't work well on mobile. Like the teams themselves often, like they are developing on their desktop computer, and so they treat it like an afterthought or something like that. And so we've been putting a lot of attention to building a really strong DevRel function to help developers support mobile use cases better, to try to help people think about the different types of diverse communities that are using their products and how these design decisions and UX decisions affect the adoption in the world. And like it's our responsibility to try to bring the decentralized web to people and to keep people safe in it, and to not just like allow those use cases to just go to be deferred to whether it's like chains that don't share our values, or that are highly centralized or something like that. And to instead, really think about how do fees affect people, and how do we make this accessible for billions of people?
Yeah, I think just to segue that into my next question, I think about like the UX, and obviously you guys are all like ad hocing it from the base. You're like, I think this is how mobile people will interact with MetaMask, and like you're right about some things, you're wrong about other things. But then there's also the fact that like the actual UX for the hardware device itself and the OS that runs that device could also just change overnight because Tim Cook wakes up and decides that life should be this way for all of us. So one of the things that's happened that's in that direction is like Apple introducing mobile Safari plugins, to where now, like for instance, to talk about usability, like Valora signs for Moolah Market, right? It opens the Valora app itself to sign for Moolah Market and attach the address. Now, how do you guys see yourselves adjusting your design choices for the product now that you can just actually not even have to go and make an app? You can make a Safari plugin for those who don't want to download the app.
Or maybe Moolah is inside Valora, so the user doesn't even have to go to the browser.
Oh wow, did you just inception me? What if it's the other way?
I mean, we're just going to like explore, right? Like we have a small team, so we're like trying to improve the experience for users with our current like feature set and the current possibilities to just make it more seamless. But we are going to like keep up with things happening on mobile, and so that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
On the Apple note, just a quick pitch for everyone. I think the App Store policies have a lot of impact about what applications you can use on your phone, what those applications can do.
Can you not front run my next question?
And so I think App Store policies will, they very much affect all of us. And I think especially with NFTs, there's some App Store policies that are less friendly. So I think it's important for everyone to kind of be aware of what's happening and how it might impact mobile crypto adoption. So front run.
One of the recent discoveries I made about the App Store policy is that you shouldn't give access to donations through your app. So you shouldn't do good with your app because like the App Store may choose to like delist you. And that's like crazy. Then it all comes down to like who's reviewing that submission, right? Like the release. But yeah, some of these policies are crazy and it's super important to like stay on top of it, like Connor said, so to like really make features that are like good for people, that are useful for users, but also like they won't get stuck. They won't get your application stuck in these crazy rules.
So if we talk specifically about Apple, because Google seems to be a bit more relaxed compared to them, it's always hard to predict what their next move is going to be when it comes to review guidelines or when it comes to the Safari, for example. What will they allow to do? What will they keep private? So the way we address this is we threading lightly, first and foremost. We keep a very close eye on their regulations, on all the rules. We actually have contact, like direct contact with their developer relationships team. And by the way, it's important to remember that these restrictions and rules are there for a reason. And they've gone through an evolution. Nobody could have predicted what the App Store would end up being. Steve Jobs initially hated the idea of an app store because that would make iPhone impure. So, and then it evolved. Originally, subscription model was invented for magazine subscriptions, and then people were having like a really hard time for all these years adapting it for SaaS software, for example. Like it's growing pains. There's evolutionary legacy things there, and there's also like reasons for things why this happened. And I think that the biggest benefit that all these crazy regulations brought us is that there's actually an app store and people are actually feeling safe going on their phone and downloading like a lot of apps. That's unprecedented. Before Apple, nobody was able to like make stores as safe as they are right now, or make the platform itself as safe as it is right now. So it's always a balance of one kind of safety versus another kind of safety. Do you want to be free and exposed to like all the elements, or do you want to be safe? And there's no easy answer for that. And so the way we're doing it is we keeping a close eye on everything and hoping to strike a good balance and adjusting as we go.
Yeah, so from the MetaMask side, like, I believe in kind of a theory of like MetaMask everywhere, and so I think there's a place for native apps. I think they're really important. They have a heightened level of platform risk from any other platform. Then there's no question about it. I think there's also a place for things like the Safari extension, but like iOS is not the device of people in emerging markets. So like I don't think that solves that particular problem. Although I do think the iOS community is an important and community that deserves to be deserves to have like really great user experiences, and I think that extensions are going to be a part of that. I think that native apps are going to be a part of that. Another we see a lot of people in the Philippines and Vietnam use a browser called Kiwi, which supports browser extensions on mobile. It's a fork of Chrome, and these are like really cool use cases, and we want to support all of them and help people to use the decentralized web in the way that makes the best sense for them and in however they want to.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very worthwhile. I think I kind of sort of have to close this out, but I want to leave us with like this thought and maybe some final commentary from you guys, wherein, and I am not shilling for Uniswap here, but I do think this is a good case study. There was, when the Uniswap token airdrop happened, I think there was a lot of people obviously native to the space that got tokens that were suddenly like worth stuff, and it was really cool for a lot of people. But stuff that actually moved me was there was a few stories from folks who were like in places like Chile and others who had just like swapped something one time, and suddenly they like basically paid off their house because now the token like was worth more than they had ever like hoped or something like that. And I kind of think about okay, if we have mobile UX, we have the ability for people to just even do a microtransaction on a mobile interface, and then we have all of these different like mechanisms for involving people's passions or involving people's like monetary attachment to this earth into our ecosystems. Do we have like do we think about that? Do we have any thoughts around like, hey, is this not just also a really good way to get a bunch of people barely involved in the ecosystem and like get skin in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think just speaking for myself, I'm here because I think Web3 is amazing and blockchains are awesome, and I think making it accessible to more people is great. And I feel like mobile is like one very important platform to make that happen. And yeah, like more people getting Uniswap airdrops if they happen to use it on their phone is great. So yeah.
If you could just take notes, MetaMask. We've all heard rumors. Just want to say.
Our view is that we want to be a community-owned wallet. That's actually been a foundational principle of ours for many years, actually. We believe in progressive decentralization and also doing that in a way that empowers the communities of people who are actually using MetaMask and not hands control of our project over to like airdrop farmers or is like some sort of cash grab. Like so, you know, if we were to do a token, it would be a token that you know would be really well thought out and would be done very carefully, and we would take our time and not rush such a thing.
All right. I mean, I'm a really big fan of community-owned anything, so I think that's definitely the right way to go. I want to thank everyone for being on this panel. If you have any closing thoughts, any closing shells, any like hi moms you'd want to throw out, feel free to. Now's your time. I think I'd also like to open it up to any specific questions. I think we have about 4 minutes. So for anyone that's here who heard anything they want to ask further detail for, feel free to ask. I like your jacket. All right, person in the back, I believe that's Gabrielle.
This question is for Denise or also any of the other panelists that might have been involved in doing field research, mobile first, of course. But I want to know what is the most interesting or memorable insight that you learned from doing research in the field with users.
I think one of the most difficult things to explain to people who have never heard of decentralization, crypto, blockchain before, and I'm talking about some of the field research that I've done in Mexico or in West Africa, is the concept of self-custody. The concept of like you really own your coins or your value. The obvious analogy is the physical wallet, and people understand it with that. But when it comes to like writing down a seed phrase, keeping it safe, something that for us is like, oh, I write it down and I'll store it somewhere really safe in my house. It's a very simple concept, but some of the things that I've heard on the field when like bringing this concept to people is that I don't know where I would keep it safe. Like, what if my house burns down? What if someone finds it? What if someone breaks into my house and like gets access to it? So the concept of like safe self-custody for even like wallets that will hold what we consider small amounts that for people in emerging markets are not so small or not so trivial amounts, it is a difficult one. So there is a big trade-off in like what we see as the principles and values of decentralization and what people in the user experience for people in emerging markets of like maybe choosing a custodied solution. And that is something that we in Valora are continuously trying to like simplify the user experience, maintaining the security and the benefits of decentralization and self-custody, but taking into account these perspectives that not everybody is in a place that is really safe and like is not gonna get broken into. And so like how do we improve our features without compromising on that security is something that, yeah, it's one of the insights from some of the field research.
Just real quick, you might find it really interesting. We published a report together with Emerging Impact on user research on how Web3 communities are happening in emerging markets. And there's like incredibly powerful stories in it about like like women in Nigeria who are afraid to go to ATMs because the police robbed them after they came out of the ATM, and how this saved their lives. And I would strongly recommend that for anybody who's looking for research on some of the trends.
Just a question for, this is specific to MetaMask. What's the strategy for mobile, which seems to have now more features than desktop, and desktop staying together or not? What's the strategy of MetaMask on that matter?
And are you asking, like, is there a chance that the mobile eclipses the desktop in?
Well, it already does. I'm obviously the oldest guy in the room. I've been using MetaMask desktop for since 2016, and I found out I had to actually install MetaMask mobile to be able to send an NFT to somebody. So MetaMask mobile has features that MetaMask desktop doesn't have. Just curious about the strategy for what you think about those.
Yeah, they are slightly different clients. So there are features today on MetaMask Mobile that are not yet on the browser extension. There's actually some features on the browser extension that are not available on mobile. And in some ways, like, we kind of treat the different clients as a way to validate a specific feature and perfect that feature, and then we will merge, or if it makes sense on the other platform, bring that feature over. So like obviously like NFT support and viewing it in the wallet is our flagship of that is the mobile product. Hardware wallets are really heavily used on the browser extension. We're bringing the NFT support over to the browser extension right now. We're bringing the hardware wallet support over to the mobile app right now. All of you who beg constantly for the hardware wallet support on mobile, I'm so sorry it's taken so long, but like it is coming like soon, and we have some like really awesome new partnerships with hardware wallets, and they're gonna help maintain their integrations, and that wasn't previously possible, and it's gonna be a much better user experience across the board. And
All right, folks. So there you have it. Mobile first markets. A lot of stuff's happening. A lot of stuff's different. I want to thank you all for coming out. This has been a very diverse and like cool, robust perspective on mobile first development. And I will see you guys around. Thank you.